All right, everyone, we've given that extra minutes leeway, and really the first part of any presentation is just presenting who you are, and that's not the most important part anyway. So let me see if I can get this started for you guys. Uh, two. Two. All right, let's see if this is the right one. Do you guys see a large screen of the presentation?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, let's get going then. Let me move my bar out of the way or it'll drive me nuts the whole time. I know myself. Okay, so we're going to talk today about Latch, which is an ADA compliance delivery system. My name is Nancy Olson. I'm the Director of Distance Education and Instructional Technology at Barstow Community College. I've been in instructional design for over 25 years, working with faculty in the distance education arena. I have a master's degree in education instructional design with an emphasis on computer and web-based systems, and I'm the author of the Latch system for ADA compliance. So our agenda today, we're going to go over why we should be ADA compliant, what the Latch system is. We're going to quickly look at how to find accessible templates in the Microsoft Office ecosystem. And then we're going to quickly do one of those accessible templates in Office, convert it to a PDF, and we're going to see if I can get it to be ADA compliant or if a PDF is a PIA, which is a pain in the ass, because I'm telling you they are. All right, so here we go. Now, we're going to begin this discussion by looking at this blank door, and you'll notice that there is no latch on it, no way to get in. That's how a disabled person feels when a lot of times when they're looking at electronic materials on the internet, because they have no way, unless you build your materials right, they have no way for their screen reader to read it correctly. Now, you wouldn't want to be the person on the wrong side of the door not knowing how to get in, and neither do they. It's very frustrating. And that's why, in a nutshell, we should be ADA compliant. But there are other reasons, such as the fact that the law says we have to be ADA compliant, and we have the federal law, the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have Section 508, which deals specifically with electronic documentation. And then we have a few on here, a few lawsuits. You know, they're hitting the museums, they're hitting the galleries, they're hitting the libraries. Um, you're not safe unless you're building it ADA compliant. And that can be a scary thought because, you know, a lot of people go, oh my God, ADA compliance, it's so complex and it's very hard, but it's really not. So today I'm going to teach you the latch system in under an hour. And I know you're going, ha, no, you're not. But really, I am. It's not going to be scary. It's not going to be complex. And if you can remember these 8 items and how to correct them, you're going to be like 80% of the way there. And as you practice, you're going to get better because it's just like learning to read. The more you do it, the better you'll get. Then we're going to look at how to find an accessible template. We're going to look at the Office ADA checker. We're going to convert it into, look at me go. We're going to convert it into a PDF, and then we're going to make the PDF ADA compliant. That's ambitious. All right, so the latch components are linearization, and that's just a really fancy word for reading order. Links, lists, alt text, tables, color, both contrast and meaning, closed captions, and headers. Now, linearization, that's just a fancy word for reading order. On a screen reader, it reads information in the order the content creator presents it. So the best way to present your content is going to be a simple layout, just like you read. You want to do top to bottom, left to right, okay? If you do that, then you're going to have a lot less issues with ADA compliance. If you start using some of these fancy things that say, put a text box here and a text box there, and here a text box there, the screen readers, they won't read any of that. Okay, so here's an example of a table that was built to overcome the limitations of a word processor or a web page. And so they put in all these contents in a specific order. It looks beautiful if you can see, right? But if you can't see, what your screen reader is going to say is cell 1 basement, cell 2 blank, cell 3 blank, cell 4 up exclamation point, cell 5 toilet, cell 6 image of toilet, cell 7 flush, cell 8 blank, cell 9 blank, cell 10 must, cell 11 blank, cell 12 blank. Now, if you knew what that meant, you're better than me because I don't. But if you can read, it says basement toilets must flush up, and it makes sense. So that's why you can't use tables to create your content and make your content look prettier. Now, there's link rules, and the link rules, they should be, they're pretty simple. Links should be concise. So you want to keep them to 1 to 5 words. They should never be hidden. So you don't want to just create a link with white text on a white background and hide it. You don't want to do that. That's what spammers do. You don't want to use the actual address as a web link unless it's printed. And unless it's short, it makes sense. So like www.barstow.edu, that's very short and it's easy to remember. You can put that as a link. But if you have gone to YouTube and you've grabbed a link, even if you shortened it, you shouldn't use it as the link because it's going to have zeros and ones and O's and L's, and people are going to call up going, I've typed it in 40 times, it doesn't work. You have to use an alt text to describe where you're going if you link an image. You don't describe what the image is, you describe where you're sending them. And they should be underlined and look distinctive. The best thing to do is just create the link and leave it alone. You don't want to change the way it looks. Now lists, there's some do's and don'ts for lists. Do's are, you use them for key terms and concepts, for organizing like information, for numbered steps, for additional information, for headers to break up long, and you use headers to break up long lists. And the reason why you use headers to break up long lists is because the screen reader will not tell the end user that you have gone in a level. So they don't know you've gone in a level. So if you use a header and then you make a bulleted list, then that tells them there's a hierarchy there. You don't use lists just to draw attention. I've seen people make every paragraph start as a bullet. You don't group unlike information just because you want to. You don't create unnecessary sub-levels because the screen readers won't read them. You don't use customized bullets. No matter how cute they are, the screen reader does not know it's a bullet if it's customized. You don't add extra hard returns, and you never, ever, 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 ever manually create a list. You always use the program to create the list. Now, the alt text rules are that every image must have alt text, okay? But decorative images, they can use an empty alt tag, and most programs now will give you an option to just check a box that says decorative. And that empty alt text, though, is actually 2 quotation marks. It tells the screen reader to ignore it. You can describe your image within the text surrounding the image. So if you really want to say a lot about an image, say image described below, and then you describe it below the image, because your alt text can't be more than 120 characters, and it shouldn't be redundant. So you're not going to use image of or graphic of, because the screen reader is going to use that. So if you use it, it's going to say image of, or graphic of, graphic of. And when creating alt text, it's important to consider the content and the function. So if you have a picture of George Washington, but it's going to the George Washington website, you say link to George Washington website. You just say George Washington website. You don't say link to, but it's George Washington website. It's not George Washington because you're sending them somewhere, and that's more important than what the image is of. Now, the table's do's and don'ts are you have to use the table caption, you have to use header rows and columns, and or columns. You can have one or the other or both. You have to use percentages and not pixels for width. And that's because if you use percentages, if I make it 80% of the screen and I have a really brand new Mac and somebody else is using a cell phone, it'll adjust the width to make it 80% of the screen. But if I say it's 2,000 pixels wide, it's 2,000 pixels wide no matter what. And that cell phone user is going to be so sad. You use tables to sort and display data. So that's what they should be used for. You never nest data tables. So you don't put a table inside a table. You don't leave the upper left-hand corner cell blank. At first, it can be really awkward and you wonder, what the heck do I put there? Most of the time, like for rubrics, it's the criteria, you know, but there's always a reason for that left-hand column, and that's what that left-hand upper cell should tell them. Don't use more than 5 columns, because then you again get that resolution issue where they're scrolling back and forth and it makes you kind of nauseous to do it. And you don't want to merge or split table cells, because the screen reader doesn't know you've done it and it makes it very confusing for them. Now, layout tables, they were used to overcome visual presentation limitations in HTML. Remember that toilet I showed you? And they should never have a table caption or header rows or columns, but that kind of defeats the purpose of a table, because I just told you they should always have them, right? And they cause reading order problems a lot, and that's why you should avoid them. But if you absolutely have to use them, then keep them simple, you know, and don't nest them. They should never be nested either, and that means you don't put a table inside a table. Linearization, remember, it's a fancy word for reading order, and that's the problem with layout tables. They break reading order. So reading order, it's still important when using layout tables, and it often gets broken. So just don't use them. It's easier to not use them. Now, captioning do's and don'ts. You do want to use proper punctuation in captioning, and you want to use upper and lowercase letters. You want to preserve and identify slangs and accents. And if your dog is barking on a screen, you put it in square brackets, dog barking. You want to say everything that's on that a hearing person could hear. Somebody who can't hear should see it in the caption. You don't want to obscure your on-screen text or other essential video elements. You don't want to forget to check your automated captions for accuracy. If you do automated captions and you walk away, you have not been ADA compliant. Can't stress that enough. Automated captions are not ADA compliant. You do not want to forget to add the non-speech sounds in those square brackets, remember? All right, so for color, there's contrast and meaning. And by that, I mean, contrast can really screw you up. If I can't see red and green and you make something in red and green, it all looks the same to me, right? There's blue and yellow. There's several different kinds of color blindness. So you can't even just say, I'll never use red and green, because there's other kinds out there. The best thing to do for color is just keep a white background with dark text. There's a reason why you don't go out very often and buy a textbook with, you know, black pages and white writing, or green pages and red writing. It's because they know it's really hard on your eyes. If you absolutely have to use color for something, use 14-point font, bold with color, or it's not ADA compliant, and some of them aren't ADA compliant anyway. You use at least 18-point font with color if you're not going to bold it. Now, you don't use color as the sole indicator of an important element, because if I'm red and green colorblind and you say to me, all the correct answers are in green and the incorrect answers are in red, it's like, well, thanks a lot. They all look the same to me, right? So you have to use something else. You use bold, you use italics, or better yet, an asterisk to indicate what you want to indicate along with the color. You don't use the dark text with a dark highlight, and you don't use a light background with light text, because it's impossible to see. Your color ratio should be 4.5 to 1 or 3.1, depending. 4.5 to 1 and 3 to 1. Your headings rules, they're used to set the hierarchy for a page. So they tell somebody how important things are. That's why you have heading 1, which should be your title, and then 2, 3, or 4 in descending order of importance. They delineate topics, and they tell people, you know, the most important part is George Washington. Now we're going to talk about his early life. Wait, we're going to talk about elementary school, high school. Those are all different heading levels, and you can't skip the heading levels. So you can't say, you know what, heading 1 is so big and that's fine, it's a title. But heading 2, it's too big for me, so I'm going to go to heading 3. You can't do that. You have to go 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Now you can skip back up. When you hit 4, you can skip back up to 2, and 1 is only used for a title. But other than that, you can't be skipping them. And another thing to remember is when you use headings, real headings that are done by the computer, the screen reader can use that for a blind person to navigate. And so they can jump around between those headings without having to hear everything on the page. So, oh, see, I did it again. So let me go previous here. So I know it seems like a lot easy to remember if you just remember that latch door. So it's linearization, links, lists, alt text, tables, closed captions, color, contrast and meaning, and headers. And once you get that remembered and you start using the tools that are provided in almost every program, you'll be a lot more ADA compliant. And as you can see here, hopefully I have them all right. And that is the end of this presentation. Feel free to share it wherever you want. It is offered under the CC Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike license. We want you to share this, get the information out to everyone, okay? All right, that's the end of this part of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share for 1 second. And I'm gonna try here to stop my share. And there we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I already have open a screen with postcards, and these postcards are from the accessible template. And I haven't really played around with them too much. So we're going to see just how accessible these really are out of the gate and how hard it would be to fix them. Now, we'll go ahead here and I'll share my screen again. Here we go. All right, so here we are. This is what we're going to fix today. Do you guys see like a postcard, like tree scene? All right, we're going to assume you do. Now, one thing I do want you to see also is if you go to File and you go to New and you come down here and you type in accessible templates. Now, I've played around with these for a little while and I can tell you that there are still things you have to fix on them. But people have tried with these. And a lot of times, if you just look for a template, people have not tried at all. So now it's going to search, and now these ones are a lot more accessible than the ones you're going to get just by doing, you know, what you want to have. So I think this still works. We're going to try it. So accessible postcard. See if we'll get anything. And see, it gives us a couple of postcards here that we could use that it says how are accessible. So that's a good tip to take. All right, so now we're going to go back and we're going to correct this one. We're going to put in our own images. We're going to enter in captions, and then we're going to see if the ADA checker on Microsoft Word catches anything. So we're going to turn on check accessibility. And the easiest thing to do is to turn that on when you just first start, because it's not going to catch everything, but it's going to catch some things. And if it's not on, it's not going to catch anything. Now, what we're going to do here is first, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a caption, because you should always have a caption. You shouldn't just leave it without a caption, because even though the alt text is there, people who can see are not going to see the alt text. Tricky, huh? All right, here we go. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click on here. And we're going to change this picture. And we're going to bring in the picture for the caption that I chose. Now, you can see that it's saying it fixed almost all of them. But if I view my alt text, you can see it's missing. So I'm going to paste in my alt text. So now I have the alt text under it and in it. Everybody's going to see it. Now I'm going to change the next one. I'm going to put in the next caption here. And we're going to click here. We can see it says landscape in green because I haven't changed it and it was ADA compliant. Now I'm going to kind of break it by putting in the next one. because I changed the picture, I lost the alt text. So now I'm going to put the alt text back in. Now I'm going to do the third one here. No, I'm trying. My hands were better when I was younger. Don't let people tell you that doesn't change. All right. One way doesn't work, always try the other way. Now we're going to change this one. And we're pulling in this nice kind of orangish picture here. We're going to do the last one. We're going to try to do the last one. My hands have decided they are tired. But we are going to get this done, guys. All right, so now we're going to do this last one. Ah, and see, I forgot to put in this caption. Now I got to go back and fix it in a minute. See what I have done to myself, made myself more work. Story of my life. All right, now we're going to put in this last nice picture. And this time we're going to remember to put in the caption. We have to go back now to my other document, grab this other caption, because when you click on this, you can see it's missing the caption. So now if you go back to review the whole thing, it should say that it's okay. Looks good, no issues found. We're going to go ahead and give this a new name. Call it postcards 2. And we're going to save it. All right. Now that I've saved it, you know how a lot of times people like to do Control P and print to PDF? Don't do that. What that does is flattens your PDF and it makes it a lot harder for anybody to be able to make it an accessible document. What you want to do when you create a PDF is you want to do File and Save as Adobe PDF. Or in a lot of places, they'll also have Acrobat up here if you have the big one, and you can click Create PDF. But don't do Control P for print PDF. You will not get a compliant document. So we're going to go ahead and create this PDF. Okay, so we have an accessible Word document. So you would think that we would have an accessible PDF, but let's see. So here's the accessibility checker right here. Do you guys still see the PDF creator here?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. All right, so here's the PDF checker. If you don't have it, and you won't the first time you try to get it, you can find it here under Tools. And if you're like me and you don't see it right away, if you start typing in accessible, it should show up for you. See, right away. So you're going to find it that way. And then you can just add it. It's pretty simple to add. You just click open. Once you click open, then it's going to show up here and it'll always show up here for you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to close accessibility so you can see once again, it's just this little accessible guy here. And now we're going to run an accessibility check. And I'm going to tell you up front that no matter how good you are, there are always going to be 3 errors on a PDF. Always. Okay? So we're going to start checking and we're going to see that we have 3 errors, and that's normal. Okay? So the first one is logical reading order, and we are going to have to do that in a minute with a manual check. The second one is the title. The title is failed, so we're going to right click on it and do fix. We're going to come in here. We can't leave it as is because that's not accessible. So we're going to put, I don't know, postcard, landscape postcard. How about that? That sounds good to me. Because you want it to be descriptive of your document. So now you're going to click OK. Now you've passed your title because you added one in, right? Now, if you look on here, do you remember I told you that color contrast is 4.5 or 3 to 1? The thing is if you're using black text or the standard URL with your URL formatting or link formatting with your program, you don't have to worry. You can just right click and say that, yes, this passes the manual test. Now, Word is really good about telling you if you're not going to pass the color contrast. Fix it in Word. Don't ever try to fix it here. It'll be a nightmare. Okay. So, but we know that we only use standard black and white text and background, and that we have the standard formatting. So we're okay. We can click that this is passed. Now we're on the hard one. And the hard one is that now we have to do a manual check for the logical reading order. So when we come over here, you see this button that's inside, look, it's inside your accessibility tools is your reading order button. And you have to click that. And this is always interesting. This is where it's going to get interesting, guys. You show the order panel. Okay, so we're going to show the order panel. And then we're going to click close. Now you can see that on here, it's done 1 and 2. It's not doing any of the others correctly on this first page. It has decided that this is all one giant table and it's not going to pay any attention to any of it. It's done a grand job of the second page. Now we're going to go ahead and try something that they've just introduced called auto tag the document. I believe that it might correct it, but it might also mess it up. But we don't have anything to lose. So we're going to auto tag the document and click confirm. Now we just got to sit here and wait. It's not too long. Okay, so now you see your tags are nice and clean. It's telling you there's sections. It's a figure, a paragraph, a figure, a paragraph. It's pretty accurate, this first page. So now we're going to go back over here to reading order and try it again. So here we are at reading order. We're going to show that order panel again, and we're going to see if it's better or it's worse. Now this first page looks a lot better. You can see that, but here's the problem. The problem is that if I can't see, now it's going to read me all of the captions, but not tell me what pictures they go with. So what I want to do is I want to grab this number 5 here on the side and I want to pull it up. And unfortunately, it's a little funky. I can't pull it to the very top, so I got to kind of rearrange and pull it right underneath it and then pull the other one down. So now see I'm at 1 and 2. Now I want to grab this 6 and I want to pull it up. And I'm going to put it right here. Hopefully it'll catch that. Now we have 3 and 4. All right, now we're going to grab 7 and we're going to pull it up here. Now we have 5 and 6. 7 and 8 are still wrong, so we just pull it up there. Okay, our first page is tagged correctly now. A screen reader is going to read first the number, or first the image and then the captioning. Okay. Now we're going to look at page 2. Page 2 is not faring as well. These are, if we had more time, what we would have to do is we would have to delete some of these. You can right click on them and delete them, and then we would need to redraw them in so that they would fit correctly. So since we don't have a whole bunch of time and I want to give you guys time to have some answers in here, I'm not going to correct this second page, but what you'd have to do is kind of like pull these out and then draw around them to make them correct and label them. So, but page 1 is perfect. It's beautiful. Now I'm going to save this. We saved it. And I'm going to show you something so that you don't worry when you go home and try this. I know you're all just dying to go home and try this, which is that when you open postcards now again, right, and you go back to accessibility and you run your accessibility check again, you are going to see that you still have the 2 issues. And that's because, well, you should have only had 1. I forgot to pass manually the reading check. Then you have to pass this check. And now see, it says it's missing an alt text. To find that, you would have to go and click on it, and then it's going to show you where that is. So like I said, even though this started out saying it was accessible, it has a few issues, but it's a lot closer than it would have been. And with a little bit of work, we could make this ADA compliant. This is why I say PDFs are a pain in the ass. If you had left this as a Word document and made it read only and published it on your website, then you would find that this document remained saying that it was ADA compliant the whole time. So it's almost better to publish things in Word format, read only, than it is to make it a PDF, unless you have time to go through and correct all the aspects of the PDF to make it ADA compliant. All right, guys, I'm going to stop my share now. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I see there's questions in here. Let me start at the top. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. All right. Yes, you absolutely can download the PowerPoint later. I believe I've sent it to the Creative Commons folks, but I'll resend it to Shauna just in case. We encourage you to use it. Also, on the if any of you use Canvas, there is a whole course that we've created that goes over this much more in depth. That's also a Creative Commons course. You're more than welcome to download and use that whole course. Okay. You don't have to do it on your end, but do take time. The way to learn accessibility is to go through and kind of play around with the accessibility checkers in Word, kind of look at those do's and don'ts and, start incorporating them. It's not that much more difficult to click the button to make a bulleted list than it is to type it out. In fact, it's probably a lot easier, right? So just start using them. And when you make flyers and you see that, like, oh, I see these flyers all the time, and I'm like, that's a beautiful flyer, but somebody who can't read, if you take that flyer and you copy and paste it into Word and it's gobbledygook, it's not ADA compliant. Flatten your PDF means that when you do your PDF with the way that I showed you to do it with Create PDF, or if you don't have the Pro on your machine, you can do File and Save as PDF. If you do either one of those, your PDF is going to remain in layers. So it kind of shows the computers, it still shows the PDF program that, this is an image and this is a text and this is a bulleted list. But when you create it with printing it and you go Control P or print, and then you change the printer to Adobe PDF, it flattens it and says, this is all just one image, guys. And we don't know what that image is. And it's really a lot harder than to remediate your PDF. So you never want to flatten your PDF or make your PDF be just one flat image instead of retaining all the components of it. Yep, that's exactly right. And that's why you don't want to do it, because it's easier to download, but nobody can read it if they're disabled. And we do that a lot, and we should never do it. Alt text to describe book covers. Do you mean the image on the book cover? I would put it, there's one of two things. You're going to, if the cover of the book has, like, say it's a romance novel and it's got, the stereotypical hot man on the cover, right? You can put on there that it's a hot man on the cover, or you can just make it descriptive if you don't feel that it adds anything to the title or to the book overall. Now, I would probably put that it is, what kind of hot man it is, because they might want to know that too. But that's what you want to do with a book cover. With any image, what you're going to do is you're going to either describe the image. If the image has no function, you describe the image. If the image has no purpose, you mark it as decorative. If the image has a function, then you don't describe the image, you describe the function. Um, Yes, you can go in. It takes a little time to learn how to do it. I mean, I can do it. My one of my team members, she's like the PDF queen. She can do it so much quicker and faster than me. But you can go in and reorder your reading order. Like I showed you on the bottom, you can delete the current bad reading order and you can use the reading order tool to draw the squares around things and make better reading orders. But for a whole book, that's going to be a lot of work. And so it's better if you go into your PDF and you see that the OCR system that you're using is totally screwing up reading order, I would go back to using something that doesn't, because it's not a good tool if you're spending just as much time as you did to create the book in reordering the book as a PDF. Or you might want to consider keeping it as a Word document. And if you guys don't know, you can go into the properties of a file, right click on it, and just make it read only. 90% of the people aren't going to know how to take that off. And the few that do, like me, they don't have the time or the inclination to do it anyway. And I got news. If you give me a PDF, I can steal your PDF and I can turn it into what it originally was without too much work. So PDFs aren't really saving, like making it harder to steal. Um, links should open in a new tab, because if they open in the same tab, people can get lost on a screen reader. But if it opens in a new tab, then they can go back to their original tab. Um, if you want to, if you're more than welcome to download the whole course we've created. It's a four-week course, and it covers Canvas Studio. It covers, which is free for any California community college, and it's pretty cheap. I've checked if you add it to your Canvas system. It also covers Microsoft Office. It covers PDFs, and it covers something else, and it covers the latch system. So in 4 weeks, they learn all that, and it's completely free. So you can, take it, do whatever you want with it, because it's a Creative Commons one, right? The only thing you really can't do is sell it, because my boss said she wanted to be non-commercial, and that seems fair. Um, Google Docs are, see, I got asked this last time, so I went and looked. Google Docs don't really have an accessibility checker. Not really. They kind of do, but not really. So you have to know accessibility more to use a Google Doc, because you're going to have to fix it yourself. But are generally pretty straightforward. They're going to probably be more straightforward than a PDF you created with some programs that like to let you do text boxes, because text boxes can't be read by screen readers at all. I can put the link to the course in the chat if you give me 1 minute. Ah, that could be. I will look that up and see. It might be that they have a new guideline to keep them not to not open them in a new tab unless the user is notified. And I could see, it's kind of to me, it's a 50-50, that one, because if they open it in a new tab and you got a lot of links, you can get a lot of tabs open, especially if people don't close the tabs. But if you don't, then people can click on the first link. They're still in the same tab, right? And then they find another thing interesting, another thing interesting, another thing interesting. Next thing you know, they're like, I know I started somewhere. I don't know quite where. And they never quite get back to your site. So this is the one that's the latch system. You should be able to find it just by searching for latch in the Canvas Commons. Let me grab you that one. For the Canvas. Some days my computer is fast, some days my computer is slow. But I guarantee you, computers will teach you to have patience. It's thinking. All right, and this is, ah, I lost it. You think you know what you're doing, and then you don't because the screen changes. Now, where'd the chat go? Oh, there it is. All right, so here's the link to the course I was mentioning. It is, like I said, a four unit course, but at the end of it, they're really good at ADA compliance. I believe that we took off the Canvas rich content editor because it's really not completely ADA compliant. So, but you're more than welcome to look through that one. All right, guys, do we have any other questions for me? All right, my email is nolson@barstow.edu. Reach out to me if you need anything after this meeting. I'm more than welcome to help you. I know that I have a newer version of ADA compliance as well. That's a gamified course. If you're interested in having that, I'm more than welcome to give you that one as well. That one has things like a Jeopardy and a word searches, and so it's more fun for the end audience. But just let me know, shoot me an email if you need anything. Other than that, I believe that I'm done. So I'll hop off and let you guys continue on with the rest of your day.
Thanks, Nancy. That was super helpful. Thank you all for being here. We have a few more minutes. If anyone has questions, then you're welcome to ask. Otherwise, you're welcome to go about the rest of your day.
I wonder, I know most people have already left, but we still have officially a few more minutes. I wonder if anyone has had the experience of like talking to a colleague who's building a resource for students, and you say to them that look, this isn't accessible, it doesn't satisfy ADA, it's just not accessible to students. and they say, I don't care. They give you pushback. Because like working in the open education space, I've talked to people that say, you know, here's the resource, it's great, it's an open educational resource, it's going to be cheaper for your students, it's going to be an option for you to you know, customize. And people say to me, I don't care. I want to use my commercial calculus textbook or whatever. And I don't really have, I have various things I try to do at that point. Has anyone had a similar experience, but with the accessibility issue? Because I've never had.
So I don't know if it's exactly, hello, I'm Lainey. I worked with producing
Hi, Lainey.
OER resources with faculty members. Right now we're having pushback between two of our faculty members whose preference is to publish a physical book rather than wanting to work on like making it a digitized resource. And one of the benefits were like, if it is published online, that makes it more accessible, more people can get to it. I work like my liaisonship is with disability studies, so like I got all their talking points most of the time, but it seems really weird that we have two faculty members in this past semester that are like, I'd rather only have physical versions. That is my priority.
Do they explain why they like, just because they like the idea of holding it in your hands? I mean, when I've done open OER advocacy in the past, I sometimes used to do a thing called a OER petting zoo, where I would bring physical copies of OER to show to faculty I was trying to convince, because just somehow tangibly touching it seemed to reach them in a way that talking about it in abstract did. Do you think it's a similar kind of desire for tactile reinforcement?
I'm not certain. I think there are several points of miscommunication with these faculty members, and that they were trying to get us to work with them because they thought it would be a great way for the library to make money. And we were like, so there are several points where we had to talk through. So I don't know where they were getting these information prior to working with us, but yeah, there are more issues.
And Taylor, were you asking about accessible process, like as in training or as in platform? Or?
So in the publishing that we do here, there's actually like we go through two different accessibility checks before we publish those resources, but I've only worked with this kind of like formatting. So I was wondering if other people who are doing publishing have similar like accessibility checks and an actual process. Because I know in some of our sister systems, they're just like, if you create a resource, good, but they don't really do the same like in process levels we do. So I hope that's
Yeah, we have well, I can't, you know, speak to others, but we have a person that goes in and checks the accessibility of what they have created and gives them a report. And depending on if they're getting money from a grant, then we require the fixes. If they're not, then we kind of say, here's your report, please consider. Yeah. But it basically just involves doing a check of what it is they create. So like if it's a Word doc, we use that checker. If it's an online resource, we use Wave. If it's, you know, it depends on the platform as far as how we check it.
yeah, I think we use the Wave tool too.
Yeah.
Which makes it harder on the faculty. I mean, I know why we have to do it that way, but it makes it harder for the faculty because now they're having to figure out how to correct all of the issues and all of these different platforms as well, right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's true. We do offer support. That is an important piece that I just skipped over. So yeah, we have folks that can help them fix it if they are so inclined. As to Jonathan's point, if they're inclined to work with us to fix it, then there are supports in place. But yeah, we do get pushback, and it's always interesting. The pushback I most often get is I don't have disabled students. It's like, really? Okay. So, yeah.
But my response to that is it doesn't matter if you have disabled students because the law states that you must be ADA compliant whether you have disabled students or not.
Yeah.
And, you know, that blows their mind. They're like, but why?
Like I said, I work with disability studies as their liaison, and the saying that you have to legally be compliant to do something does not actually like enforce it, right? It is, yeah, unfortunate. A lot of cases of that.
In a lot of cases,
In
all you
terms
can
of-
do is give the training. Because there's too much content for any college to be able to watch everything that goes out in every classroom. We just can't.
In terms of a process for evaluating the, I don't know if, so the folks at Open Oregon Educational Resources have been building a bunch of OER under one of the federal grants. I've done a little work with them, supporting them, and they, Amy Hoffer is incredibly kind and generous person who runs that organization. They have a process, they have a whole multi-page document of workflow for how they assess the accessibility of the things they create. I actually wrote some software to support some of the steps of that workflow. They do things like, as Nancy was telling us, things about, you know, the links should have good URLs, and you know, and shouldn't have URLs, but should have good descriptive text and not, and things like that. And they have a whole step by step. First check color contrast, then check heading levels, then check URLs, then check alt text, and you know, things like so. I'm sure Amy would be willing to share with you. You just zap an email to her out of the blue and say, you've heard she has a process. She shares everything.
Dang, this is like accessibility in OER is my niche area. So I guess I hope I'm not taking too much of your time.
And Jonathan, when you asked about the Google Docs, were you asking for yourself or just in general?
A little bit in general, I guess so many people these days use Google Docs maybe as much or more than Word. And you know, Nancy was showing us these great tools in Word and discussing issues. And I was wondering if this, I don't know, I have very negative feelings about Google Docs in general. Well, they're widely used in the OER world, but I think it's filled with privacy invasive technology and all sorts of sort of nasty cruft if you think, oh, I'll export it from Google Docs so that I can, you know, save it as a Word document. It produces the most ugly, you know, Nancy mentioned things like where things are flattened sometimes when you try to convert between formats. Google Docs likes itself, it hates other formats. So it claims it can translate to other formats, but it produces things which are barely or not even compliant in some other format. So
Okay, because then this may not be useful for you, but there is a plugin called Grackle that will do the check, and it is free. There's a paid version that'll actually walk you through how to fix stuff. But one of the fun things I learned about Google Docs, and so this may be useful for you, is it does not have the ability to create accessible tables. Full stop. So yeah, we even talked to the Grackle folks, and they're like, yeah, it can't be done. So another reason not to use Google Docs.
Oh, and plus, if you're part of the community college system, Word is most likely free to you and your students, right?
Yeah. All right, well, we are, I think at the more or less at the top of the hour, and very few of us left. So I may close this out. Thank you, Nancy, for doing this. Much appreciated. And
See you
John,
next time.
all right, I'll see you later.